Hey, beautiful friends, and welcome to the Love Shack studio from Sedona, Arizona, United States of America. I am spiritual medium Joseph Tittle, and these are special predictions that I am doing for our friends in Japan. And a big shout out to my friend in Japan, Toya. This is for you and everybody else in Japan that's watching. Please do click that thumbs up, love button, and subscribe to this channel right here, the official Japanese channel for spiritual medium Joseph Tittle, aka Spirit Man JT. I picked 3 tarot cards for Japan that we're going to look at. I also wrote down some predictions myself for Japan, which I did put out in my 2026 World Predictions on my American YouTube page. So I'm going to tell you the predictions that I wrote out for my 2026 predictions for Japan. Then I am going to reveal the cards that I picked. And then I'm going to talk to the spirits and see what else they have to say for our friends in Japan. So first, I see in Japan, especially in Tokyo, also dealing with some type of issues revolved around water. Some type of water shortages, some type of ruptures with water, but I just feel like water is going to be a big issue. Water is going to be an issue across the globe, but especially around Tokyo, I feel like there's water, especially when we get into the summer months of July and August. And of course, they're going to be dealing with extreme heat and extreme temperatures across the globe, which is also going to damper our ability to produce water. I see water shortages. I even see concerns coming to light around the safety of your drinking water. And I see like on your news stations, how safe is Tokyo's drinking water? How safe is it to drink? And many people installing, if they didn't already, putting in new filters and new filter systems. I even see some parts of Tokyo on the outskirts having some type of a water alert, kind of boil your water type of alert. Japan's economy becomes really unstable in 2026, and there will be a big drop in employment opportunities and possibilities, which would bring up a rise in unemployment. Because of the unstable economy and a drop in employment, I see also big protests that are going to take place in the streets of Tokyo and throughout the country. I also see some types of protests and gatherings around Japan's universities. And this is something we'll see around the globe and around the world, these different issues and problems and protests around universities. This is the awakening of the younger generation who are going to step up against the system that's had us engulfed and trapped for so long. Generations we've been trapped into the same cycle, doing the same thing over and over and over again. This is a time on the planet Earth where things need to shift, and they are shifting like never before. Not only with that shift, of course, there's going to come the next levels of our awakening. The awakening where people will just wake up one day and they're in a higher consciousness. We start to look at the problems more clearly. Not only that, stepping into your power and demanding change. And that's mainly where the younger generations come in. Then the negative aspect about this is that the younger generations may have a hard time controlling their emotions in the process, in turn causing protests to go a little on the rioting side or the looting side. Not just, again, in Japan, but across the globe. I see major protests happening, and again, especially around your universities. I also see protests outside of your government buildings. And even one of the big banks. So I think the government protests, I feel the government protests and the ones outside the banks are likely going to be related to your economy. Because the economy is going to be rough across the globe, and the economy is collapsing. The dollar for all of us, including your dollar, is collapsing. So I see issues with, again, students around universities. And I also see controversy that's going to arise around your leader. And I should actually, let me bring up a picture of her. When I see a picture, I can read much, much better. I see a lot of controversy and a lot of issues that arise around your new female leader. And somehow there's ties to corruption that come to the light. I'm not necessarily saying that she is the one that's tied to corruption, but when we look at your previous leader, he was definitely tied to your, what I guess we can call the Japanese cartel or the gangs, and weaved into that web of darkness. But I feel like even though she may be weaved into that web, because you don't get into that place of power without being weaved into that web of darkness in some way or another, I actually feel that she's there to lift things up more. I feel like she's there to lift things up more. But I feel like when she's in your office and in charge, I feel there's a lot of ties to corruption that are going to come to light. So I would imagine that she's going to bring this to light, or maybe her administration's bringing it to light. And I feel like she does stay in power. And I also feel like something big is happening around Japanese gangs, cartel, something that leads to arrests, something that leads to rescuing people, little ones, kids that are caught up in traffic. If you know what I mean, that's the code we use here in America, caught up in traffic. So let me look at her picture. Let me bring up her picture. Sanaya Takachi? I probably butchered that. I apologize. Sorry. She looks very serious. Very serious individual. When is her birthday? I don't see when her birthday is. Yeah, I feel like she's there. She's there. She came in on December 22nd, 11/22. Wait for me. Oh, no, never mind. Scratch that. I gotta make her picture a little bigger. Yeah, I don't know how her father is weaved into that web of darkness, but there's something around her dad. So, and again, I know nothing. I'm just the psychic spirit man from the United States of America. But yeah, I feel like there's something with her father. It feels kind of dark. But I do feel like, again, she does want to lift things up and lift people up. But I feel like, sort of like President Trump. She's surrounded by people that don't mean well. She's under the influence of people that are dark. But overall, I do feel like she means well. And I feel like she has something to do with the big changes in your economy that's coming. It's like she's so divided because she's so under the influence of the dark that likely the dark pulls her in. That's usually what happens when you reach those leadership roles. You don't get there without signing your name over to the darkness. But I still feel like, kind of like President Trump, she's there to initiate the collapse of things falling apart, pulling out the truth. Things that people may not like, that people are going to protest against, that people are going to rebel against. But it all does lead to good in the long run in time, because this is the new earth that we're heading to. Now let's look at the 3 tarot cards that I picked out. First, get this off of here. I picked out 3 different cards focused specifically on Japan for 2026. The first card that I picked is the 6 of Cups. But when I picked the 6 of Cups, I picked it reversed. Which means, of course, like probably the rest of the world, Japan's very much stuck in the past. Stuck on past systems that don't work no longer. And this card represents all about moving forward. It's about leaving the past behind. And it's also about independence and bringing more freedom to the people. This is likely why we're going to see so many protests there and so many things happening. This also can indicate to me a feeling that people may be moving out of certain areas, leaving certain areas of Japan for certain reasons. Some of it could be due to geopolitical events, but some of it feels like it's weather-related or earth-related events that cause people to flee an area, likely fleeing coastlines. Because this card, again, not only being stuck in the past, but it's like moving forward from the past. Sometimes we're forced to move forward. Sometimes Mother Earth forces us to move forward. So that indicates that to me, and indicates that there's going to be, that's where they're at right now. That's where they stand right now. The next card that I picked is the Moon card. The Moon card reversed as well, which shows that your leader, this woman, has a lot of fear. And there's still a lot of deception there. There's still a lot of deception. She's under high anxiety. She doesn't handle anxiety very well. It shows a lot of misunderstandings within the government, and even people misinterpreting her words or misinterpreting things. And that'll actually fall into the place of late March into April. That's when we could see a lot of misinterpretations and misunderstandings, a lot more maybe protests and people being angry at the leader. Now, the moon also represents the water. And if you look at the card close enough, we're at the coastline. And we see the coyotes or the dogs howling at the moon with the crab crawling out of the water. And the water is very disturbed. And there's two pillars there. I don't know what the two pillars represent, but I never noticed that till now. So this tells me that there is a big storm that's coming. Big storm, and this represents not only big storms as far as, again, stormy political structures, a stormy economy, but stormy waters, literally. Meaning that likely some of the coastlines of Japan are going to see some type of tsunami waves and rough waters surrounding Japan in the near future. Again, times to look for that, I would say, would be March and April, late July, early August, and then also the month of November is a really intense time period. Now, Spirit says watch the time of the eclipses. Watch the time of the eclipses. So I know that, I have to look this up, the eclipses, I know one's February 15th, I believe. We'll look that up in a minute, but let's move on to the third card. But again, the moon shows me, and actually going back to the moon, likely whatever's happening with stormy waters either happens on a full moon eclipse likely, or that's what activates it, and it comes shortly after. So let's see, in 2026, we have February 17th, which may actually be the 18th for y'all in Japan. That goes over Antarctica, South Africa, South America, Pacific, Atlantic Ocean, and Indian Ocean. To me, that would make sense to activating something beneath the Pacific Ocean that could go back to my past predictions of seeing a major rift beneath the ocean that causes major earthquakes and tsunamis. Now, I did say that in last year's predictions, and I admit the timing's off, but it's still coming, I assure you. And we'll see what the spirits have to say about that in a minute. March 3rd is another eclipse. That goes over Asia, Australia, and the Pacific Islands of America. That's March 3rd. That's the lunar eclipse. That's the one we would look at, actually. March 3rd, and then the other lunar eclipse would be August 28th. So they'd be big times to look forward to. And then any full moon. So keep your eyes on the moon. And then the final card that I have is the Ace of Wands. The Ace of Wands just shows delay, kind of like the Mercury retrogrades bring, delay after delay. It shows, a lot of hesitancy, a lot of blockages. And to me, this can represent the economy as well. And being it's reversed, it's losing grips of the economy and falls in the markets and falls around the markets. Again, March and April feels very vital to me around our friends in Japan. Now let's see what our friends and my friends in Spirit have to say. Yeah, Spirit instantly shows me that it's going to be very stormy and rocky for Japan, especially in the way of even weather and earth events. That's probably going to be one of the biggest focuses. I would say the three biggest focuses that occur in Japan in 2026 is going to be a focus on the female leader, political changes that the people don't like, and again, large protests. Secondly would be the economy, shifts and changes in the economy, and eventually issuing some type of a new type of tender, a new type of money, a new form of money. Most definitely connected to digital currencies of some sort. I feel like there's a fight with the economy between making that digital currency centralized to Japan itself, or whether it's going to be centralized to the centralized banking system, which we do not want, because that is the darkness. That is the mark of the beast that we need to resist. I see lots of stormy waters, lots of big storms coming in, torrential rains and floods in the streets of Tokyo during the summer months of July and August. Earthquakes in the northern regions. And some type of major eruption that unleashes this cloud of darkness. And I feel like that may fall actually somewhere between Russia and Japan. We'll look at the map in a minute and see what I can get off the map. I also see friction building up between China and Japan. And then I also see friction building up between North Korea and Japan when Japan issues a warning against Kim Jong-un when he starts shooting off missiles that come way too close to Japan's territory. It feels like China is getting very aggressive towards the Japanese people. I feel like there's even some type of issue that happens with your fishermen, with the fishing. I feel like this debate with fishing and fishermen goes between both China and Japan. Fleeing a coastline. I hear tsunami warnings, tsunami sirens. So I do see that there will be tsunami waves that hit. Earthquakes on the edge of Tokyo caused quite a shaking, some damage. I feel like a lot of rocking happens, a lot of rocking back and forth in that region in Japan. Let me find a good map here. The very upper part in the North Pacific, Hirosaki, and around that tip. I guess that would be, what do we call that, your northwestern tip, if I'm looking at this correctly, but Hirosaki, I feel like something's happening in there. I don't know if that has to do with the earthquakes or not. When we go down low, Osaka feels like a place that's inundated. I feel like a big storm goes right in through that area, bringing flooding up to Nagoya. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. I should show this to you on the map. And Tokyo being hit by a major typhoon, especially even towards the latter part of the year around October, November. Even evacuations and rescues that take place. Feels to me like the tsunamis are happening more to the north and oddly the opposite side of where the 2011 tsunami was. So it feels like the movement's happening in and around the Japanese Sea, or right above Japan and that tip of Russia where that massive volcanic eruption was. And then I do feel that there's something happening in the southern part, not as far down as Okinawa, a little higher up, Shikoku. Sorry. Right above that island right above there, near Hiroshima. So I feel like this is an area between Osaka and Shikoku. It's an area I'm pulled to. But outside in the Pacific Ocean, that's where I feel like the activity's happening when it comes to earthquakes and tsunami. And I've been pulled there in the past, in past predictions and past visions. Some of my visions take 2 to 3 years before they come into fruition. It was probably about 2 years ago, maybe close to 3 this year, maybe 3 years, that I saw the visions of these tsunami waves hitting Japan coming from a big rift that happens beneath the Pacific Ocean. And then I see this major eruption, and Spirit says 3 volcanoes will erupt in and next to Japan as a big symbol that something much bigger is coming within weeks following. I feel like 2 of those volcano eruptions are, again, Japan, but one may be going back up to Russia. When all 3 erupt at the same time within the same 1 week period, the weeks following is when we need to keep a really strong eye. Because the eruption that I feel that's happening is something new. Something that hasn't erupted after the 3. Something that hasn't erupted yet. Like a dormant volcano becoming alive again. And I see people closing their doors and closing their windows and staying inside. It's like their own little lockdown. Don't breathe in the air. Don't breathe in the ash. And I even see people wearing masks in Japan. I believe them wearing masks doesn't mean necessarily a breakout. It feels more like something toxic in the air. Because some of the masks I see people wearing are more like gas masks. And I feel like this is probably maybe related, maybe to the volcano. I'm not sure. I don't feel like it's a breakout of a disease or anything. And then Spirit also shows me the fish. What is the fish that washes up? The deep sea fish, the oarfish, will also wash up in the southern region. Maybe now down closer to Okinawa. Look for the fish that washes up, the doomsday fish. That will be another sign. And again, I'm looking really strongly at like mid-February to things will start kicking off in February, especially with the earthquake activity, volcanic activity, and that'll be globally. But from mid-March to mid-April, that's a big time period. Not necessarily just for Japan, but for the entire world, and when it comes to earthquake and uptick activity. So that's what I have for you for now. My friends in Japan, thank you so much. Be sure to hit that thumbs up, love button. Thanks for subscribing to this official Japanese YouTube channel for Spirit Man JT. And I wish you all an amazingly happy, healthy, joyful, and abundant 2026 and beyond. And again, another shout out to Toya.